Welcome to StockInvest.us podcast. StockInvest.us is a research service that provides financial data and technical analysis of stocks. All users should speak with their financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. Users should not base their investment decision upon StockInvest.us. References to any specific securities do not constitute an offer to buy or sell the securities. By using this information, you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions. For more information, please visit StockInvest.us.
We are heading into the week 20 and you are listening to the StockInvest.us podcast. My name is Jim. I will guide you through the next 30 minutes where we'll speak about the market, we'll look into a few stocks and we will analyze crypto. Last week I told you that I thought it would be a bloody week for the crypto market, saying that Bitcoin might fall all the way down to 45,000 and Doge down to 30 cents. Well, right now Bitcoin is $45,000, so that was spot on. But we will get there shortly. As usual, we will start looking at the markets that we just left and look into the market ahead of us. Last week, I raised the question, will this be the fourth week of Nasdaq falling? And indeed it was. Nasdaq ended the week at 13,430 points or down 2.34%. Dow Jones ended the week at 34,382 points, getting close to the 34,000 limit, but only down 1.14%. As we've seen over the last few weeks, Dow Jones been holding quite good, while Nasdaq and the tech stocks have been taking a hit. Last week I also told you that a lot of stocks were showing oversold signs. It can go both ways, I said, but by the end of the week we started to see stocks pick up. And I will start straight off just saying that I'm very certain that this week will be a green week, and I will argue why in just a second. Before that, we will look at a few other major things, and for those who've been following my podcast for some time knows that in the portfolio, which we will get to in the end of this podcast, I hold Tencent Music. Tencent Music took a huge fall after Bill Wang and Arceus collapsed. Bill Wang had done a lot of hedging and he totally collapsed, had to sell all his shares, and one of these shares were Tencent Music, which took a huge fall. Well, this week it turns out that George Soros have been buying million worth of stocks in the collapsed Bill Wang's stocks. One of these stocks is Tencent Music. George Soros, according to news, have been buying 34 million worth of Tencent Music Entertainment Group. So this shows that also Bill Soros, who is quite good at stock trading, I would say, have picked up on Tencent being cheap. We will get to the portfolio, but in the portfolio we will see that Tencent Music is still at a loss in the portfolio. But as I said before, I think this stock will do very well, and we will see. Over many podcasts, I told you that the one thing that can trigger very bad markets is a conflict in the Middle East. I thought it would be Iran first. Well, it turned out to be Israel-Palestine. Palestine been shooting more than 2,000 rockets into Israel, and Israel been responding heavily. This, of course, shake the markets a little bit, and it's still unclear what will happen next. So that's the kind of conflict which you will keep an eye on, because suddenly Iran or some other country will try to get involved into the conflict, and it can escalate to something more. Personally, I do not believe that will happen. I think because this happened many times before, that it will fade slowly out in the sand. But right now, it's a huge thing in the market. Oil, which I've been so positive to, but over the last few weeks that I thought it would take a dive down, refused to go down. The first thing that happened was, of course, the hacking of the oil line in the United States, causing fuel emergency on the southern border. The next thing that happened was, of course, Israel-Palestina conflict. So the oil is still above 65. I thought it would go down to the 45, 50 level, But now I will say that as things are right now, it may very well just keep floating above 60. For those who've been following me for a very, very long time, also know that I said that given the right scenario, I think that we will see during 2021 oil all the way up at $100 for some major conflicts. I still believe that has to involve Iran. I don't think Israel-Palestine will be enough to push oil all the way up to 100. But I still stick to the same idea that we will have a short event where oil will push all the way up to $100. So what does this mean? Well, as I said many times before, I invested quite much into oil stocks and they've been doing so good. And every single day they are really banking a lot of money. Good oil prices mean good profits, and these profits will soon start to show up in the Q results. They will start to show up in the investments, and we will see a lot of consolidation where these oil companies making good money right now will start to buy all the smaller companies. So it's an interesting field. You should dive into it, look into it. Is there any oil stocks where you can position yourself? Personally, I have more than doubled my money into the oil stocks, so it's been good so far, and I think that it will just keep on. Gold is up a little bit from last week. It's currently traded at $1,853. The reason for this is simply because gold is considered to be a safe place, and with the unrest in Israel-Palestine, there is no surprise that gold is climbing a little bit upwards, and I believe that it will get back to the $2,000 level, which it was just some months ago. The last thing from a fundamental perspective is, of course, the 10 years treasury yield measuring inflation. For those who follow the big market indicators, we know that the inflation is the one thing that you have to pay attention to. And the treasury yield rise last week, it's now at 163. It's still very, very low, but it is on a new upturn. And that is the expectation that inflation will come and that it will just grow. Anyone living in the United States, especially in the southern part of the United States, know that fuel prices is really rising. Lumber prices is up, food prices is rocketing, and everything is going towards inflation. Usually this causes markets to go down, and I believe in the long run that's exactly what will happen. But for this week, as I said, I believe it will be a green week, and I will reason why before we jump to the stocks. First off, it's been 4 weeks of fall for Nasdaq, and many stocks are heavily oversold right now. If we go to the Nasdaq chart, we will see that it was bouncing up just above 13,000. The support at 13,000 level held. I have many months ago told you that the one very, very important level is 12,600. That's the level that we don't want to go below. Any level turning above any level above 12,600, and Nasdaq will still remain within a slight uprising trend. The problem is, of course, the 14,000 limits, which has been trying over and over again. Right now, Nasdaq is very low on the relative strength index. It's been turning up from 24 and had a nice end of the last week. And I think that there will be enough momentum. There is not much resistance up to 13,800, 14,000 points. So I think this will continue upwards. It just gave a buy signals from the short-term moving average on Friday, and it's still a sell signal from the long-term moving average. So we're only talking about a typical natural correction after 4 weeks down. I think this will be a good green week where Nasdaq will climb maybe all the way up to test the 14,000 level again. But to me, it's also starting to become clear that we are in a lot tougher terrain, and that this sideways movement most likely will just go into a negative trend. But I don't think we are there yet. Will it be next week? Will it be 2-3 weeks ahead? But to me, it looks like it will be a much tougher market. There will be no excitement before we break $14,000 upwards. Then we will go into this rally, which I mentioned before. Until then, it will be a waiting game. And as every day go, we're getting closer and closer to a bear market. But we will see. I still have this feeling that we'll have a last rally, but I might very well be wrong on this. We'll just see what happens during the week. As I say, I believe Nasdaq will climb up to $14,000. And that brings us to the major shares, because the major shares will tell us a little bit about the market. And as usual, I take a lot of them from Nasdaq, and we will, as I said, at the end go to the cryptos, analyze Bitcoin and Dogecoin. We will start looking at Apple. And before I forget this, if we look at buy signals across the world, they are quite stable as we speak. Currently, Nasdaq is giving 25% buy signals. This was 22% last week, so a little bit more. It's turning up. As I said, 22 was very low last week, and that's the typical point where it starts to turn up. New York Stock Exchange remain high. It's been around 42 to 48 for weeks and weeks and weeks. Last week it was down at 38, but this week it's up at 47. So it's kind of status quo. But speaking about Apple, last week I said I thought Apple would end the week at $126. It ended at $127.45, so I would say very spot on about Apple. So what can we expect from Apple this week? Well, it shows the same signs as Nasdaq. It was bouncing up from being oversold. It was down at 28 on the relative strength index. Also, Apple is giving buy signals from the short-term moving average. There is still a sell signal from the long-term moving average. Like Nasdaq, Apple faces resistance at previous high, $135. That's the level which you need to get about to get some real excitement back into Apple. For those knowing me know that last time I bought Apple, I sold at 135, so I was quite good on my selling. And you might ask, why don't I do like last time? Last time I bought in when it was low. I bought in at 120. Last time it had the same pattern like it has today, bouncing up from oversold. And I bought in at 120 and I sold at 135, doing a very good $15 profit. The reason why I'm not buying in this time is because there is a divergence in the volume. I expect Apple will push upwards, at least for the first part of the week. Doesn't have much resistance. But I don't think there is enough. The stock is it went up on Thursday and Friday, but on falling volume. It's usually not a good sign. There is not enough momentum, pressure to really push this stock up. So I think it will do a short up, face the resistance between $130, $134. That will be too heavy and it will head down again. And that doesn't give me the proper risk reward which I want. I want good position if going on now, as markets is a bit volatile, uncertain. I don't want to be too exposed. And again, for those who follow me know that during early Christmas time, first part of the year, I reduced my exposure in the market quite heavily down to from far up at 80-90s and down to just above 40% of my investments in the market, because I was expecting worse market. And I don't see any reason why I should increase my exposure. The market is still not where I want it. If it goes above $14,000 on Nasdaq, I will be willing to add in a little bit more, because I think we will head into new rallies. But like it is right now, I think it's a equal chance for falls as going up, so it's not just a place where I want to be too exposed. And same thing with Apple. I don't manage to see Apple having that risk reward which I want. So for the week ahead of us, I believe that Apple might start the week very good, pushing upwards to 130, maybe 132, but then fall. And by the end of the week, I actually believe that Apple might be lower than 127.45. And that it will end the week closer to 125. So that will actually be the target for Apple this week. Up in the first part of the week and then falling. The next stock we will look at is Microsoft. Usually Microsoft and Apple follow each other to some degree. I've been more positive to Microsoft than Apple, and last week I said that I thought Microsoft would take a fall. ending the week at $253. It fell even more. It ended the week at $248.15. So I was some $5 off Microsoft target. But Microsoft is within a little bit better trend than Apple. It's bouncing up. Also, this from being oversold, it was down at 27 on the relative strength index. And if you're a new one and you don't know technical analysis, well, relative strength index is just measuring how many days is the stock going up compared to how many days is going down. This gives you a ratio between 0 and 100. And we usually say that if the stock is above 70, meaning that it's been going up 70, let's say 70%, it's a little bit more complex than this. But in general, it's above 70, it's being overbought and you can expect a reaction down. And if it's below 30, it's oversold and you can expect a reaction up. And when you look at charts, you will see that very often when stocks are down in oversold, they have a reaction up and it's usually a good buying opportunity. Not always, it doesn't happen always, depends a little bit if the stock is in upward trends or downward trends and a little bit about markets, but in general you can look at any stocks, go to our webpage StockInvest.us, check out the stocks, and just below the chart you will see the relative strength index chart. Relative strength index 14 just means it's measured over 14 days and it's a momentum indicator. So this gives you a good idea, and I always look at history because history will tell you something about the chance of the same kind of pattern repetition. And last time Microsoft been overbought, it hasn't had the major reaction up, but there has been reactions upwards. Again, same thing like Apple, Microsoft is having buy signals from the short-term moving average, a sell signal from the long-term moving average, a little divergence in the volume. So like Apple, I think Microsoft will struggle. Everything tells me the same picture, that we might start the week good, just to end bad. And you might think, well, you just said that you think Nasdaq will do very good this week. And be green. Yes, I still believe Nasdaq will be green, but some of these major tech stocks will not be green overall in the market. It is when you start to look at so many of these penny stocks and other stocks which really are oversold that I think will be the part that lifts the market this week. So I don't think there will be much to be gained from the major stocks. I think some of the smaller stocks, it will be a good week, for instance, for Tesla, NIO, etc. And that these stocks will do very good, pushing the market up, while these big stocks will float more or less horizontal and not gain much. So for Microsoft, I expect Microsoft might push upwards to 255, then turn down again, have lots of support below today's level, so there's really no big risk, but that it might fall a bit back, and let's say that it will end the week at $245. So not much expectations from either Microsoft this week. And then it's Apple and then it's Tesla. And I really believe Tesla will go up this week. I've been wrong a few weeks about Tesla, thinking that it will head upwards, but it's been having yet another downturn. I was turning down at $570. Last time it turned was $563 and had a very nice upturn from $563 to $762, so almost $200. Those who are subscribing for our newsletters know that on Friday I just sent a newsletter saying that I think Tesla might just do that exact thing, go another $200 from 563 to 763, like it did last time. It shows any and all of the signals. Last time the volume is increasing on the last part of the fall. It's a very good thing. That's the time when you want divergence, because it's considered kind of sell-off where all the rest of the pessimistic people just leave the ship, and you are stuck with more positive people pushing the stock upwards. So I believe this will happen, and if you read a little bit news posted during weekend early morning this morning, you will also know that artificial intelligence funds run by artificial intelligence also think that this is the time where to buy Tesla. Problem with Tesla is lots of resistance at 660 all the way up to $760. So that will be a very tough terrain to break. But the first $60 should be quite easy ride for Tesla. I think that it will start maybe already today. Stock is reacting up from being oversold. Found the button, as I said, at $571. Now reacting up. And I think that it will go just straight up to 660. Could be a single day event or a 2-3 day events. Then it will struggle a little bit more with 670 before pushing upwards to $700. How it will be all this week, I don't know. There is a sell signals from the short-term moving average. There is a sell signal from the long-term moving average. But as I said, there is a divergence in price, and this time it's price falling and volume going up, so I find that to be a good divergence. I think it will push upwards. It's just exactly how will it play out all this week. So my guess is that we'll start strong this week, have a downfall in the middle of the week, and then just push a little bit upwards. Since I've been mistaken, been a little bit too optimistic lately, I will try to reduce myself and say that I will put the target this week for $680. So that will be the target for Tesla this week. But again, I've been optimistic for Tesla for some week. Usually, if you followed me for a long time, you know that I was very pessimistic when it was $800-900, thinking it was way too high and that it should have a natural reaction up. I flipped this view some weeks ago and think that now it's time to get up again. We will see if I will be right this week. I admit I've been wrong. I've been a little bit too optimistic for the last 3-4 weeks. Then it's Amazon. Very often I'm spot on the dollar on Amazon, but last week I was a little bit off. I expected Amazon to hold a little bit better than the rest of the stock, ending the week at $3,350. It ended $130 to be exact, $127 below my target at $3,223. So a few percent under my estimation. And what will be this week? Well, looking at the Amazon chart, we can say that it's doing the exact same thing like Microsoft, Apple. It's bouncing up from being on low RSI. It's not oversold at all. Have this same bottom. The volume is following the chart much better than in previous stocks. It's in an uprising trend, so I think that from a risk-reward point of view, I like Amazon better than I do like Apple and Microsoft right now. Looks more solid to me. It's picking so nicely up from the bottom of the trend, giving buy signals from the short-term moving out right now, sell signals from the long-term moving average. But like all the other stocks I just mentioned, there is resistance above. For Amazon, is resistance at 3,300, later at 3,400. If it breaks 3,400, well, it's a clear road up to 4,000 if that happens anytime soon. But I don't think so. I think that Amazon will continue upwards this week, have a nice week, but we will see that Amazon will struggle breaking 3,500. And like I said, for Nasdaq, I think that we will see maybe the change over to a horizontal or even falling trend in the longer picture. But for the very short-term trend, which we speak in this podcast this week, well, I believe Amazon will do good. I will put a target for Amazon this week for 3,370. So I remain optimistic for Amazon. I don't manage to see anything very scary right now. I don't think there is much upside either, but I don't think it will be anything major. I think that we are at some sort of top, but it's still not yet confirmed that we're heading into bear market. We are still not yet there, and still there is this possibility that we will get this last rally, which I think it will be, despite getting even less chance as we speak. So before looking quickly at my portfolio, we will have a look at Bitcoin and Dogecoin. Last week I said, well, I believe Bitcoin will end the week at 45,000. I even had the title of the podcast, Bloody Week for Crypto Ahead. And I based my opinions on technical research, but there is also this one thing: when everyone says buy, it's the best thing that you can do. It's usually the markets take a dive when things get too overhyped. So also from a fundamental perspective, I saw this coming, but I based my view on technical analysis. And we will look at the chart. But to be real clear, if we measure on Friday, which I usually do, Bitcoin ended at 49,800. Today it's trading at $45,000. Dogecoin had a huge fall, but then had also a good rise. So that ended at 56 cents. So I was way off. But looking at Bitcoin, what can we expect from Bitcoin? Well, previously I said that I don't see any big scares in Bitcoin. I was saying that it would go up, kept that target for a long time, but last week I finally reduced it, said that it's struggling so much with 60,000, and everything is showing that it will take a fall down. And I also said last week, well, you have to take a gamble, you have to take a guess what will happen. And this week, I will really take a gamble, because I think that we will see a huge fall in Bitcoin this week. The reason for it is simply because there is no support, or very little support, below $45,000. I told you also this before, that $45,000 is one level that you should take care of. The reason for this is because it was rising so fast from $20,000 all the way up to $63,000 that it really did not leave much good support. There is support at $30,000, of course some psychological support at $40,000. But this is the kind of scenario that can go very bad very fast. Either it picks up from where it is, or it really takes a rumble down, and I think that will happen. The reason is it struggled so long with breaking 63,000, really not managing 63,000 level, going sideways, and now just balancing on the 45,000 support. And to me that indicates that it doesn't have the momentum it needs. If it turns upwards now, it will face all this resistance at 50,000. Just imagine all the people that just want to reduce some of their risk, manage some profit, because this is how brain works. You know that, oh, we don't want to sell, it will turn, and when it's fallen enough, a lot of people bought between $50,000 and $60,000, believing that it will head to $100,000. Now they're thinking, well, if it gets back to $50,000, I will save a little bit, reduce my risk a little bit, because they already felt the scare of losing 15, 20, 30%, whatever it is. And the same thing with all those who had those amazing gains being on for months and months, even years, all the way up to 60,000, now starts to feel a little scared. So all this level between $45,000 and $60,000, there will be a lot of people just waiting to sell their Bitcoin, or at least reduce their exposure. Given the right condition, I think that will be too much negative, too much sellers, and that will force Bitcoin below 45. Have to mention that the relative strength index for Bitcoin is very low. That indicates that the first few days of this week might be green, but it remains to see. Also remember that when something is oversold, like when it's overbought, it can react very fast. When it's overbought, it can continue overbought. Bitcoin did this back in April. It was overbought for weeks, going $10,000 at the time, being overbought. The same thing can happen when it's oversold. It can go from bad to really bad. So we will take a gamble also this week. and I will be very pessimistic and say that I believe it might start the week trying to hold the $45,000 level, push maybe to all this Monday, maybe even into Tuesday, pushing upwards to 50 on a good time, but it will not hold, and we will see some major scare when it fall below 45, having a huge fall downwards to the $30,000 level. Question is, will it end on 30,000, or will it just have an intraday low at 30,000 and bounce a little bit up again? So hard to be exact on these things, but I will, like last week, I will take a gamble and I will say that, well, in my opinion, I think that we will by the end of this week see Bitcoin at $33,000. Hopefully, for those owing Bitcoin, I will be wrong, of course. And just to mention this as well, personally, I don't see this as a big problem. You have to remember how fast Bitcoin been going up, and that it will have this reaction down. It's somewhat natural. It's not unnatural. If it breaks 63,000 upwards, it will just go to 100,000. So this is just a classic scenario. Anyway, we will have a quick look at DogeCoin before looking at portfolio and finish this podcast. And Bitcoin it fell very fast last week. It was all the way up at 70 cents, 68 cents. Had a fall way below 40 cents at some time. At some point, I think it was even traded down at 31, 32 cents. So indeed, I was right about hitting 30 cents, but it did not end the week because there was more Elon Musk news, and whatever he says, it starts pushing this coin upwards. And if you look at the chart, it looks, I would say, even better than Bitcoin. If I were to choose between any of them, I would say that there is a much bigger chance that Bitcoin will do well over the next 1 to 5 weeks compared to Bitcoin. And you may say that, well, Bitcoin has higher fundamental value than DogeCoin, which was just a joke to begin with. Well, the charts just say the same thing, but it also says that it's extremely volatile with support at 40 cents, 30 cents, resistance at 60 cents, 70 cents. This will just spiral up and down, and if you believe that you only can lose 5% in this gamble, you are very wrong, because it can get down 30% in a single day or up 30% in a single day. There is really a lot of volatility involved, but the direction of DogeCoin is exactly what you want to see. If it falls down, let's say that the Bitcoin will pull all the crypto market down. I don't think that will happen. I think it will be a little bit more specific than that. Well, if Bitcoin drags the market down, DogeCoin will find support at 35, 40 cents, 37 cents, and later at 30 cents. So these are the levels that you can start to pick up. I think any level around 30 cents, which represent the bottom of the trend, will be a good buying opportunity. On the upside, it faces resistance at 57, all the way up to 60, from 65 up to 70. Not the biggest resistance. I don't see that being a huge problem at all. Little divergence in the volume is, of course, not exactly what you want to see, but in general, I think that there will be no major things for DogeCoin. My guess is it will push upwards, fall a little backwards, and then a little upwards. If we look at the week as such, it will move sideways between 35 cents and 65 cents. So it will move up between these levels. And personally, I think that it will end the week somewhere close to where it is today. And just let's say that it will end the week at 50 cents. So to sum up crypto, I believe we will see a huge fall in Bitcoin, while DogeCoin will hold quite okay during the week. will be very interesting to see. And if you want to combine the market view that I have, the crypto view that I had, everything to me indicates that we might start the week very good, but you should be a little bit careful about the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Could be that it picks up on Friday again. In general, nothing really special. We're getting to the end of the podcast. And we will look at my portfolio. Indeed, we could just skip it because it was a bad week, and that's how the game is when you're too exposed into high risk stocks. Markets go red, well, these usually do bad. If you're a new listener, just give you a short introduction. I have several portfolios, but we've been following one portfolio since Christmas, and it was doing very well. But over the last few weeks, it's really been struggling. And using trailing stop loss, many of my stocks been sold, foresold, and I later had to rebuy it. And looking at Diffusion Pharmaceuticals, I thought Diffusion Pharmaceutical would have a good week last week. Well, it did not at all. It pushed news, which in my opinion is very good. You know that people is dying of lack of oxygen in India. And in the news pushed by Diffusion Pharmaceuticals, well, it said that they have a positive correlation with the oxygen in the blood, their treatment. So they have this link in what they want to achieve to give better oxygen transport in the blood. That's what the product is all about. Well, they push this news that there is findings for these things. They keep exploring it. Well, why doesn't that just push the shares up? Well, of course, they managed again pushing news in a bad market and pushing just vague news. So the market did not pick up on it, but I think, as I said before, I have this strong feeling this stock will do very, very well. And I've been in it for very long, doing so good, been such a good investment in it. Picked it up last year and been up and down and selling on tops. And I think there is more to come from Diffusion Pharmaceuticals, but it's been a waiting game. Next stock is NEO, and NEO does not manage to perform. Whenever it starts to move, it falls back again. Well, I started to buy NEO a long time ago before I started telling about my portfolio in this podcast. So it's plenty of plus, but since Christmas it's been performing very bad. Last week ending at $33.42. I still believe in NEO. I think it's the right thing. Market's been negative against green technology over the last few weeks, and it might continue. Who knows? But I think this week will be, as I said, a week where Nasdaq will go in green, and I think some of these a little bit more high-risk stocks will do good, while the big tech stocks will not do as good, and NEO will be one of them. So I believe NEO will push upwards this week. It remains to see. Petrogeoservice floats above 5 Norwegian kroner, is 536. So it's been quite a horizontal move also for Petrogeoservice. Abus, the same thing, it's floating 262, nothing big. It's down 26% since Christmas, so it's really performed bad. Ur Energy stayed at 140 over the week, doing very good. It's up 42%, almost 43% since I took it in the portfolio some time ago. This Velocity Energy, which is this pink stock, I like to have one stock that either just go bust and is totally lost, or could do some amazing things. So it's kind of lottery ticket, and as I said, it's money that you have to be able to waste, because these stocks can get totally in deadlock with no volatility, no trading when markets go bad. Last week ended at 8 cents, but it's still down 27% since I bought it. But remember, this stock goes up a lot when it goes up and down a lot when it goes down. I think Friday it went up 70%, so that tells you a little bit about the volatility in these kind of stocks. But I'm in it for a little longer, because I think it might just hit $1. We will see, or it will go bust. Tencent Music, I commented in the very beginning of this podcast. I believe good in Tencent Music. I bought it at 1885 after Bill Wang had to sell all his shares, foresold it, pushed it down from 30s to the $18. It's a company making good money. It has some issues about China, of course, monopoly and stuff like this. But in general, it's a good money-making machine. But right now it's traded at 15.21. It's down 19.39% since I put it into my portfolio. So it's really not been performing bad. But now, at least Soros is buying on the same impression that the stock is oversold, undervalued, that there is plenty of upside in Tencent Music. And over the last few weeks, the market's been so bad, it's been really hard to do anything good with these high-risk stocks. My less-risk stock portfolios, which involves a lot of oil stocks, been doing quite better, but this high-risk portfolio been doing very bad. Last stock in the portfolio is Zoom, been moving quite up and down, currently at 74 cents, and is down 15% since I took it in to the portfolio. Sumerica doesn't make much money. They have this Truforma product. It's extremely high valued, but again, also Sumerica they went out in the market getting investor money when the stock prices were high. So they have a lot of money on the book. I don't remember by the top of my head exactly, but it's quite much money. I think it was more than $200 million they have to grow on. Don't take my word for it, but it was quite much money. The sales are still low, but they're working on it, and I think that this is just a pure speculation, but this is the kind of stock that easily can boom up to the 150 level, and I'm targeting 140. We'll see if it happens, or it will just be sold with a huge loss when times come. That was the podcast, not the most optimistic podcast, of course, but in general, I think market will be green this week. The major tech stock will not be that green, move horizontal, even might a little bit down, but I will see a pickup from the more high-risk stocks, EO, Tesla, especially Tesla, I think will have a good week. Tencent Music, I think will have a good week, and so many of the other stocks. Huge fall for Bitcoin, not so big fall for DogeCoin. Will I be correct? Well, it remains to see. My wish is that you will have a good week, that you will have a green week, that you will be able to build your portfolio even better and stronger. And a general tip at the very end. When markets, the risk reward is not as good as you want it to be, when there is a lot of uncertainty, one thing that you can do with your portfolio is try to get into less volatile stocks. So you don't have to see these huge falls of 20-30% on red days, but have the same as the markets, maybe 2-3% down. That's it, folks. Have a very good week, and we will speak again in a week. Bye.